Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, hey everybody, it's another Wednesday here at Giga Texas, and I'm going to do a short intro today and get into the video because there's a lot to see. What I just want to draw your attention to is all of the deliveries of equipment that continue to happen here at Giga Texas. And most of this is being loaded up and moved over to the factory on the east side using those temporary platforms that have been erected so that they have access into the second and third floors and mezzanine floors that have been added over the body in white section of the factory, pretty much the entire length of that part of the factory. And that is where more production lines are being added in for future products. Now, over on the southwest side, we did see some more trucks delivering some items. See some more of them being unloaded and placed around in that temporary slot. And in addition to that, we also see some of them being picked up and then moved over to that east side of the factory that I mentioned. Now, also, one of the things that I did notice is on the west side at that new platform, they've been adding in several more pieces of equipment, one of which is a very large robotic assembler, as you can tell by this image, and this was loaded up and moved inside earlier. Also, some of the equipment that was on the west side is showing up here, specifically the cam fill filtration units. Now, we've seen much of this down on the south part, third floor of the factory, installed about a year and a half ago, and that's supporting the Cybertruck production. And maybe it was almost 2 years ago, but a lot of that cam fill materials, machinery were installed there for the air filtration. Now we're seeing something similar, but on a little bit smaller scale, up on this northern part of the west side, going into that platform as well. So a lot more production lines and a lot more capacity being added to the factory on this side as well. So let's get into the drone, let's fly around and see what else is going on here at Giga Texas. And as always, thank you very much for your support.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are considering purchasing Starlink, I would recommend that you use my referral link at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Well, good morning from the west side of Giga Texas, looking at the entire west support facility, which includes the outbound lot, the end of line, the west warehouse on wheels, and the material staging yards. Coming down lower here at the north end of the end of line, you see some more vehicles that have autonomously driven to these lanes on the left-hand side of the screen, and then they are positioned by the employees into these lines to go into the facility itself for more processing. As we fly over the end-of-line facility, just taking a look towards the west. On the right, no semi today. That's out doing something else. We see the track at the bottom of the screen. Some more of the vehicles being loaded up on the north and the central parts of the outbound lot. And then here, as I bring the drone down lower, is that new wash rack, that green structure, and more of the underground plumbing that is still in the process of being finished up to allow this wash rack to be operational. Great view of that track, some of the rumble strips at the bottom of the screen, employees and a bunch of vehicles on the left-hand side getting lined up for processing other vehicles, a Cybertruck going in for testing, and more on the right-hand side of the screen. We do see a lot of Model Ys moving on the right as they are positioning them for transportation, and of course work here at the supercharger with another self-driving vehicle coming along the bottom of the screen. So very active here on the West Support Facility. Another thing I noticed is the number of red Model Ys. I think this is part of that promotional where some of those colors either are free or they were related to some other incentive. So we are seeing a lot more of the red ones today in addition to all the other colors. But we do see a lot of trucks loading up and very busy. Now, as we come across this road, I wanted to just take a look at all of the materials that are being stored here. We've seen a lot of this before, not a lot of movement. At the bottom of the screen is some more of the solar panels that are destined for the roof of the main factory. More workshops at the bottom of the screen, those transformers, the spools of cable, more materials at the bottom of the screen here as well. The workshops at the top of the screen. The bottom of the screen, we see the solar panels on top of this workshop. So we're seeing more of that. In fact, there's on the left-hand side of the screen coming into view, there will be even more right in the center, actually. And then here is the brown wrapped items that are part of the stamping press that is related to semi-manufacturing at Giga Nevada. These are all waiting for their turn to be shipped off to that new facility that's being constructed. So another great look at some of the materials here on this side of the power lines. As we cross over the power lines, a few things to note. More of the steel on the bottom, that's for the interior mezzanine construction. There is some work at the ground and the dirt up at the upper right as they are working into that open section. And then here we see deliveries of more of the production equipment on this truck being unloaded right now. A lot of the crates, materials in the silver wrapping, some of the blue, the green, just all over the place. And these materials are temporarily being stockpiled here, but then they tend to move fairly quickly over to the factory. And we will see some of these items being loaded onto the temporary platforms on the east side, and even some other equipment going in on the west side. So quite active with all of this equipment, and I do believe this is production line equipment related to new products and just the finishing out of those lines so that they can be ready to do the processing and the production of all of those products here very soon, especially since we're now well into the third quarter of this year. There are some more vehicles here loaded up with cam fill filtration units. These are destined to the platform on the west side of the factory at the 4680 cell portion, and also structural pack. This is what they look like. This is similar to the larger cam fill filtration units that we saw installed on the third floor, the southwest side of the factory to support the Cybertrucks. This is smaller equipment, but it looks like it's heading up to the structural pack, third floor and mezzanine level of the factory. And I'll point that out again when we get closer to that area later in the video. As I bring the drone up, I just wanted to look across the highway, take a look at what the factory looks like today. There is some haze and low clouds at the time of flying, but otherwise really not too bad. And as I kind of look back to the left, we'll see the west support facility, the caisson with the big tall crane, and also the west support facility warehouse on wheels and the middle of the screen. Now I've crossed over the highway, resumed here. I just wanted to show you what was going on at the south end. We're going to stay at a higher altitude today, but with this view, we can look at the trench work and trench boxes and other work that is being done on the south side of River Road. You can see some of those orange fences outlining the areas where there is some of that work, and some significant trenching that is being done here along this side of the road. And here's another view of that trench box. I did notice that there's work around the fork statue. We saw this on my previous video as they were marking it out. Now this is what it appears like. And there is some trenching around this statue, some of which looks like it may be a conduit, or at least being able to tie into some existing conduit. But this is a great view straight down on the fork. Some people ask what's on the top of the fork. That's just a lifting ring that was used to place that statue when they installed it several months ago, actually about a year or so ago. Here at the South Bridge, we do see more of the work here on this part of the road where it looks like most of the trenching has been filled in. On the north part, we see some trenching next to the caisson with some of the trench boxes and a lot more equipment around this location. and we'll continue to monitor how this develops. But I'm going to fly along the west berm up towards the flagpoles, and we'll take a look at what's going on with all of this construction and trenching and a lot of the pipes that are being installed along this side of the factory. There's also this large new green patch of kind of a seeded mixture or matting, and this is to promote the growth of grass and do erosion control for all of this berm that is being disturbed with all of the work that is being done. As we wrap around the flagpoles, I wanted to show you that production is definitely moving along today. There's a white Model Y that just came out, another Model Y exiting the ramp. And if you look on the inside, there's yet another one, and then there will be another one following behind. You'll just see the lights as the car is moving. This is kind of an indication of the speed of the Model Ys exiting the factory, even at this relatively early hour here on Wednesday. And I did mention on my previous video that the production line hours for Model Y have changed, and they are actually starting production at 6 in the morning, running to 6 at night. On this part of the berm, we see poles being added for that perimeter fence that is kind of working from the north all the way to the south, and this will eventually kind of wall off the factory from that berm and the highway, which I think is overdue. Now, this is where those CamFill filtration units were being delivered a little bit later and put up into that platform and into this part of the factory. So while I'm here, I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude. I've had some viewers ask me about the solar panels on the roof. What is the update? Well, here is what is going on. More of the Unirack mounts have been placed kind of in this underscore line underneath the Tesla letters, and it's reached this firewall now on this part of the factory. As we look back, you can get a good sense of where those solar panel lines are and some of the equipment that is kind of being stockpiled near that crane in the center of the screen. Also, while I was here, I thought I would take the opportunity to check in on these new 9 large enclosures that are being added on top of the body in white part of the factory. You can see there is a lot of activity here today, and what these look like with the light is very easy to see. Now, there's some conjecture whether the cooling enclosures, the smaller ones, are going to be replaced or if this is an addition. I think it's an addition. There is a permit for HVAC work here on the body in white section of the factory. This looks like what that permit is for, and it looks like it's a substantial increase in the amount of ventilation capability. Maybe there'll be some filtration units in there. I'm not really sure, but that is what it looks like today. And if you happen to know more than I do about this, please let me know in the comment section of the video. I would appreciate that. Coming back to the northwest corner, just checking in on that cleared section in the right-hand side of the screen, and also the ventilation ducting and cooling enclosures here on top of the 4680 cell portion of the factory. I did notice yet another delivery that was being made here to the north end of the 4680s. You can see that truck that just arrived, and we see something similar being moved away with that front end loader. While I'm here also, I wanted to show you some of the deliveries and crates on the north end of the plastics manufacturing part of the factory. And that may be significant and related to what we're seeing here with some of these rack mounts. As I zoom in, here we can see these new items. There's kind of alignment jigs on the bottom, kind of those triangular sections. And then in the middle are these kind of blades that are sticking up out of these rack mounts. I've had some viewers that say that they think that these may be for the fenders of the Cybercab. And there's some other interesting items here under rack and on the wrapping of the plastic, and that's what it kind of looks like. But the significance of this is that near the plastic shop where they're getting a lot of the equipment and these rack mounts, we know that the color of the Cybercab is going to be cast into the plastic, so maybe this is all related to that. If you happen to know more, please let me know in the comment section. As we pass along these rack mounts for the castings, just wanted to show you the work that is continuing here with boxing and assembling some of the rack mounts on the left-hand side of the screen, some of the old bumper stands for painting, and some of the unwrapped crates that are still in that area. As we get to the northeast corner, we do see some more of the castings here and the rack mounts. I believe that these are most likely Cybertruck castings. And then as we look towards the melt center, all of these castings are Cybercab castings, both the front and the rear subframe. As I come around the corner and look into the melt center, again, all of these items that you see at the bottom of the screen are part of a new loading system for the furnaces. It'll go through that open section that you can tell just underneath the canopy, and then next to where all the aluminum scrap is being prepared for recycling, you can see that second or the first of the loading systems that we've seen before. Now, as we pass the baghouse filtration plant, I'm going to stay on this side of the site, look down at some more rack mounts with the castings next to this temporary platform. And as I maneuver around the power lines, I'll bring the drone back down and zoom back in. You can see that there are some significant deliveries that are being made on top of that platform today. I've also seen milling machines being loaded in through these openings on top of that platform, and that may be related to casting final preparation before they move to production. Now, a few details here on the ground. We see solar panels and what looks to be power walls, and that is for that entrance for employees at the bottom center. On the right next to the glass, we can see that there's another entrance in kind of plywood and plastic. Here is more equipment that has been arranged and brought over from that southwest temporary staging yard and is being loaded up into the second floor here through this opening and that platform. Here's a great view of what some of that looks like. And through the windows, you can see a lot more of the equipment in boxes that have been moved into this part of the factory. Of course, they are extending the vertical capabilities here by adding in mezzanines and floors, and a lot of this equipment now is being installed for that production. Here's another temporary platform now onto the third floor. We see a lot more of the items here on the ground. Of course, that front end loader is positioning some items for picking up by that crane and putting into that temporary platform, and just a lot of activity here on this side of the factory. Now, this platform and some of the doors that are opening are part of the stamping section. We see some deliveries of coils of steel or aluminum in the top left. We see some recycling that is getting ready to go in the door that is opening, some more equipment, and it looks like maybe rubbish being put into those green bins on top of that platform, and some other deliveries in the open doors. So again, a lot of activity here. On the east side as they bring that equipment in. Of course, we're looking back to the cooling plant and also those yellow wall panels that are being added in that southeast extension of the factory. As I pull away, this will be a great view of the temporary testing calibration lot, if you will. There's not a lot of activity in here. Today, we do see a couple of vehicles in the superchargers. Some more superchargers looks like maybe delivered on the bottom right, and that covered section that has been used for testing. As I keep the zoom in and look around here past the helicopter pad and the wind tunnel, we can see this section here, this material staging yard, with a lot more of the pipe segments, some other deliveries that have been made in that blue wrapping, and of course the parking garage in the background. So I'm going to bring the drone up and kind of reposition towards the center part of the screen, and we'll resume here momentarily. You can see some of the trenching on the right next to Robotic Avenue for conduits, the planters at the bottom of the screen, and the new trailers with the old ones at the top of the screen. And they continue to do work here to prepare to move all of those offices from the older trailers into these trailers. And I'm hoping that this will happen very soon. I know the employees are definitely looking forward to that. More of these concrete vaults and manhole covers. Much of this is being used over at the electrical switchyard. We'll see that activity here a little later in the video. As we pass the Cortex 2 facility, the die shop, and the cathode plant, we can see again more of that work on the bottom of the screen and the center of the screen for extending Tesla Road through this area at some point. Of course, is a great view across a lot of the workshops, the East Warehouse on Wheels, and some more of the equipment and some materials that are being stored on this side of the site. Now at the bottom of the screen in that fenced off section, we see these kind of rack mounts. I think this is for scaffolding parts, and it may be just where they're going to be relocating some of that here in the near future. These kind of blue and white equipment items still have had no motion in quite a long time, and I don't know what the purpose of those are. The fact that they're out in the elements cannot be good for them, I would imagine. As I zoom in, this is going to be a great close-in view of the crash testing facility. We see the crash wall has been placed at the center underneath those black curtains again. The dunk tank is full of water, and of course there's a lot of vehicles along the west black fence area that have been crash tested. Along the base of the wall for cathode, we see all of those crates of equipment that have been delivered, and there's just more of the production items that are needed for inside that cathode plant. As I keep the zoom in, this is a good view into the north end of the crash testing facility. Looks like there is a kind of a silver Model Y and next to this vertical structure. And of course, some of the lifts that are used inside and those red kind of vertical structures. And those are used for post and pre-crash testing inspections. This is a great view of the entire crash testing facility and the north end and that flying floor kind of structure on the north where that is maintained. A great view here of more of that equipment and the crates along the east side of the battery cathode wall, those temporary trailers, and some other large trailers that have brought in more equipment. Now the wade pit, I've been told, is being used periodically, but I just don't see it being used very often. This is what it looks like here today. So we pass the cell testing lab and some of the steel corrugated pipes stored through here. I thought I would take this opportunity and fly up to the far northeast and check on some of the developments that have been going on here. Now first we see a lot of the earthwork. This is picking up this dirt and it's redistributing it over towards the electrical switchyard for preparing the grade for that construction. So this is what this looks like here today. Now as I pull away, not only do we see that large field in the top right of the screen, but this is the rental equipment lot and maintenance facilities. And this is what it looks like here on this very far northwest of the site. As we pass over these trees, hills, and ponds, that is really what the whole site used to look like before they reclaimed it from the sand and gravel mining operations. We're going to get to this field again. I wanted to check on all of the equipment that has been up here. We've been seeing that being slowly reduced, and much of the equipment that was stored on the concrete panels that you see at the bottom of the screen has been moved and broken down and recycled. This is pretty much all that is left. And it just continues to show that they are preparing this site for something more in the future. As you can tell, more of the recycling going on. And that's because there is a permit for the new Harold Green Road through that area. Also, we've seen new permits for some work possibly related to Giga Texas in that area. So as we get back to this northeast section, dirt area, going back towards the battery cathode plant, this is a great overview of the entire site, at least at this altitude. And I'm going to take this opportunity and fly up kind of over the roof of the battery cathode plant and look over towards the Cortex 2 site. And this gives you a kind of a great context of where these are located together, but also the progress on that new facility. As we continue to fly along the roof section here, the die shop is coming into view. A lot of the equipment on the ground that's being used on the inside as they build out more capability inside the die shop. The cooling plant is all operational today, and there is some frost on the vaporizers, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. And I'll just kind of maneuver the drone here down into the alleyway, and we're going to proceed back to the north along this west side of the battery cathode plant. just kind of get a sense of all the work that is underway. As we pass over this staging yard, we'll see some dirt that's being stockpiled in this section, kind of triangular, and where that fence is, plus the work that is being done on earthwork along that fence line, and of course this expanded part on the north with that drainage ditch next to the trees. The wall panels on the north end continue to be installed along those two openings. Along the east side, we can see the seam sealers being placed in. Almost looks like blue bricks at this point in time. Of course, they'll be putting on a second coat of this and then the final texturized coat with the kind of impressions that make it look like the concrete panels, and then they will put that white stain on that you can see on the right hand side of the screen. A lot more materials for the roofing have been delivered here. Those are those white packages. Also, these packages that are underneath the black tarps in the center of the screen. And more equipment on the west side of the die shop on the left hand side of the screen that is going to be going inside as they continue that work. Here's a great shot of some more steel studs on the ground plus the roofing materials. And as I kind of wrap around the south end, a great view of how the entire building is coming together with that final texture coating and the white stain and some of the scaffolding for that work. On the roof, crews continue to add in the insulation panels and the weatherproof membrane. This is what the far southwest corner of the building looks like right now on the roof, and they will continue this to the north at some time, and hopefully we'll get that all completed in the next couple of months. Here's a great view into this opening with that kind of smaller wall on the right and this almost retaining wall that's being built here on the exterior. We'll continue to fly along this west side, try to get to some views inside the structure, but while we're here we can see concrete pipe segments are being unloaded next to some of the other materials for the roofing. And this is what the operations look like here today. And as we pass over these containers and around this light post, I will zoom in and try to give you a view of the work that's going on here. It's really hard to tell what's going on inside, but we can see that concrete smaller wall kind of is separating the A and the B column lines. And here's some more in that yellow forms. And it's kind of like segregating this kind of lane here on the inside of the building. Maybe this is for pipe work that will be used for a cooling system. Again, it's hard to know for sure, but I'll keep trying to monitor this as best as I can. More work on the wall panels continue around these openings and some texturized coating being applied to the walls. I'll bring the drone up and kind of reposition to look over towards the electrical switchyard and the work that is being done there today. First, on the left center, we see more of that earthwork just to the left of the water detention pond. And then here we see center dump trucks all lined up, bringing in some more of this kind of gravel mix that's being spread on top of this graded area. Here's a great view of some of that operations. And this is all in final preparations before they can start doing the vertical assembly of the next part of the switchyard expansion. Now, I was hoping to try to capture some of the dirt being dropped out through the center dump truck, but it looks like there was a little bit of miscommunication of where they actually needed the truck to be. And we're going to see the truck kind of maneuver around with that person in the yellow vest trying to put him in the right location. While that is going on, we can see that the underground vault on the left-hand side of the screen will be coming into view, and some more earthwork that's being done around the vault itself. Also, the forms for the roof is being placed. You can tell that work right now. They'll put some rebar on there, and then they will be able to pour the concrete to complete this structure. Now, some of the concrete vault items are on the ground here next to the fence, along with some piping, and we can see that dirt fill coming in here to fill in the trench that the vault is in. Now, the vault kind of conduit underground connection point is well underway here. It looks like there's maybe 3 more sections to be added. And with the workers, this gives you a great sense of the scale. This will allow electrical conduit to run from one to the other of the vaults and electrically joining them together. Of course, you get a good sense of the graded section with the center dump trucks on the upper right and what the switchyard will look like ×2 when that work is completed. As I maneuver the drone back around, I wanted to just give you an idea of where the Megapack 2 is in relation to the work with this underground conduit vault. And as we get closer to the Megapack, we'll see that more conduit on the cable on the ground going from the cable trays to that north trailer still needs to be worked on, and there's some work on the transformers being done here by the workers. One last, or a couple other things I want to show before we wrap up the video. First, as we get close to the north end of Tesla Road, here at the bottom is this large trench work. They've been doing almost kind of like directional drilling through this area underneath the road. It may be to connect pipes or conduit or both from where the temporary trailers are over to the new trailers, and I'll continue to monitor that work as time goes on. The other thing I wanted to show you is the extension of the trench work with conduit through this location. I was thinking it might go underneath the Tesla Road where you see that brown kind of square patch, but it looks like it's running along the south part of the Tesla Road, and it may continue along this entire length of the road. So that'll be something I watch. We do see the red concrete on top of the conduit, so that's getting close to being completed, at least at that section of the trenching. So I'll bring the drone up to a higher altitude. We'll look back to the west. You can see downtown Austin in the upper right, and of course many of the areas that we visited today. And that'll kind of bring us to an end of everything that I was able to show you today. I hope what we talked about in the intro plus in the video was helpful and puts into context everything that is going on here at Giga Texas and just the expansion that is going on and all the work to get that facility, the factory, ready for additional production. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great week. Take care.